Coach, I started yesterday by asking you about getting off to a hot start.
Yeah.
You clearly didn't have a problem with that today.
Yeah, no, I told the guys before the game, I told the coaches, and I told the kids afterwards, I said it was the best pre-game BP and pre-work I've seen us take in my time at Indiana. We do a challenging pre-work drill set, and I get up there and pitch and mix and all the hacks and spin balls, and we were really locked in. We were really, really good. And so I told the coaches, they're either going to be really good tonight or they got me fooled. And I was hoping I wasn't going to be a fool. So they were really good from the beginning, and they just kept going. And, you know, as a coach, players can be frustrated with you at times because you have an image in your mind, an expectation in your mind of what they're capable of, and then you just have to push and push and push. And sometimes you got to be a little bit uncomfortable and make guys uncomfortable, and we just continue to push because we know we're capable of being a really good offense and getting off to a good start and following the game plan. And just like I told them, that Friday against Maryland, we just similar profile of pitcher, and we didn't follow the plan. We didn't execute the plan, and even when you do execute the plan, things don't always go right. But you have to give yourself a chance by going out there and at least acting like we had a scouting report meeting before the game. And so we did that. We executed really, really well. We were on time for fastball. We knew the profiles of it, and we did exactly what you would hope that we could do on a really good day, right? Some fortuitous bounces besides, Tibbetts getting a homer rob for the second or third time. Besides that, we had some balls that found some holes, but we were excellent.
You said yesterday during the presser that you would know a whole lot more about Purdue by 1 p.m. today than you did at that point. Without revealing too much, what did you find out that maybe could have suggested the success you guys had tonight?
Well, that's a good. He's been terrific, and I want to make sure I'm very, very respectful because he's been terrific. He beat Maryland. I think he beat Rutgers. He's won 3 or 4 Fridays, but it's a good profile for us. It's a lot of the way that we train, and so I wasn't worried if we followed the plan. I thought we would have success. I think seeing it in person is always important, but I thought we would be fine against him. Now they may catch the line drives, but if we fought it, we would be okay. So I kind of thought going into it we would be okay, but I wanted to see it and see if we could make an adjustment because he was really similar to the Dean kid from Maryland. But what I saw from us tonight was we have a gear that we haven't been at in a long time. And now the question is can we sustain it? Not in the outcome of it, but in the way that we go about it, our business. And there's young teams that find themselves over the course of the season, and hopefully that was a moment for us that we can find and then hold on to that and understand that all the work and all the adjustments and all the swing changes in the last 2 or 3 weeks, they're for a reason. It's because you want to be playing your best baseball at the end of the season. And if you pout about it, if you make excuses why you can't, then you never find a way to get better. And so I think that's probably what I would find about us is that we were able to embrace making adjustments and making changes and getting our chops busted and being held to a really high standard and being able to execute at that level. And I also found out that, Purdue's going to be offensive. They're going to swing the bat, and, this is going to be a dogfight. It's one game, but, they could have rolled over and not competed. And they did a great job competing. They're offensive enough to make that a game. I know that the end score, but it wasn't comfortable there until the 9th, right? Ben did a really good job of coming in and settling things down and kind of finishing it off. But, it's 0-0, and so now we're going to see if we can do it again. But I think you found out that Purdue is going to be offensive as well.
With that,
Go ahead.
Well, can you talk about the way Cerruto has really stepped up after that was
Yeah.
and stuff?
Yeah, he's been incredible, and I have to give credit to him. I was talking to Coach Glenn about this. I don't know that I've ever seen a kid. We had Sean Murphy at Wright State who caught the lion's share of innings, but not every single game. And Murphy's a great player, but I don't know I've ever seen one kid just shoulder the load like he has. And Coach Glenn said, just remember, he told us he was capable of this. He's a confident kid, and he was very adamant that he was capable of it. Last year when he struggled offensively, he was adamant to me that he was capable of being a good or productive offensive player. He just kind of had to catch his footing a little bit. And we do things a little bit different offensively. And so anytime you have an older guy that transfers in, how do we do our drill work? And it's a little bit unorthodox at times. And so he has to get comfortable, and you have to build a trusting relationship. And so he's bought into that, and he's really invested into it. And he's done a terrific job. You look at his throwing has improved tremendously. His offensive work has improved tremendously. And really, if you look at the metrics, his receiving has gotten a lot better. He's been able to do a much better job with low strikes. And he's always been a good lateral blocker, but he's done a really good job with all those things. I just can't be more impressed than I am or have been with him. He's really, he's changed the course of the season when you have, Shepard goes down before the season starts, who's a supremely gifted player, and then Ellis goes down, and it's squarely on his shoulders to be able to keep Tibbetts at first base and play great defense at first base. He's going to have to carry the load, and he has. So, kudos to him, and it couldn't happen to a better kid.
You finished off without saying something you're not supposed to. You finished off. It was an amazing day in IU athletics. Softball won earlier. There may have been a certain commit for men's basketball's name you shouldn't use because he's not officially signed yet. But how big was it to finish off the day of what was one of the better days that IU athletics has seen in a long time?
Well, I'm a huge IU basketball fan. I didn't know that, so you broke the news. That is awesome. I'm thrilled. I know I can't. I don't want to get in my trouble. I know the basketball staff, and they're great guys, and some of our kids go to the same preschool, and so I've been really cheering those guys on. They've been working really hard, so good for those guys. And Shonda Stanton is awesome, and I've been so thrilled for her. And she's a really good friend, and I'm the luckiest baseball coach in the world because she's so easy to work with, and we get to go over to their field and take ground balls on dirt, and they come over here, and we share facilities so well. She's incredible, and what a great season, historic season that they've had as well. I think two things. One, I would be remiss if I didn't say that the great reason for celebration is today is my wife's birthday, and so happy birthday to her. We did it all for her. That's exactly what I'm going to tell her when I get home tonight. And then we got to celebrate one of the greatest athletes in the history of Indiana, and Scott Rowland tonight. And I'm really appreciative of Indiana University and the athletic department for all the work that they did to put in to have that event tonight, and for all the fans that were supportive of him tonight and the community that came out to support him. He's been a lifelong friend of mine since I was a kid, and just an incredible representation of what it means to be a Hoosier and what it means to represent Indiana with class and with dignity. And so it was a really good day. We're very blessed and very fortunate, and you have to make sure you enjoy days like today, because there's hard days that come too. So if you don't stop and enjoy those days when you get them, what are we doing with life, right? You got to enjoy the good days.
Largest announced attendance of the season tonight here at 2293. What is, on a night like this, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's a huge statement of support from the community, and you could feel it. You could feel the energy, and I talked to a couple of the boys beforehand to make sure that we didn't get too worked up, right? To use it to focus you and sharpen your mental edge, but not allow it to try to do too much or to overswing. And we did a pretty good job of that. We stayed focused for the most part and didn't allow the moment to get bigger than it was. But we've had a really tough spring with weather, and that impacts. I understand that when you look at the weather and it says it's going to be 39 degrees or it says it's going to be raining, and that impacts things. So we had a really nice night. It's warm, and obviously it's against Purdue, and so you have a wonderful crowd tonight. I'm just really thankful and appreciative. And I'm glad that we were able to put on a better performance than the last time we had a home game. And now we'll see if we can go and play well the rest of the weekend. But for tonight, we gave them something to cheer about.
Pitching, you obviously didn't have to use any of your high leverage arms. You did throw Siler away, which I do want you to talk about why you chose to use him when you could have used him Sunday if it was a close game. But also you saved Kraft, you saved Yoho, you saved Phillips, you saved Reisdorf, you saved all your good arms. How big was that to keep to keep the game far enough away where you didn't have to use any of your high leverage arms?
Yeah, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal, especially because we played a Wednesday game this week instead of a Tuesday game this week. So those guys are a day behind. Where typically, those guys would be up, and we had some guys that were down today. Foley had to go 2 Wednesday. Reisdorf had to go 2 Wednesday. Bothwell was really good. He threw 3. So we were a little short-handed today, a little bit short-staffed, and some guys are going to have to step up. And anytime that you roll your ace out on Friday and you go in a little bit short-staffed, makes you a little bit nervous going into it. I think there's something to be said for mentality as you go into the next day. And, we didn't do a good job of shutting down the game the way that we needed to. And so you have to make a decision as a coach. Are we going to let this thing bleed its way out? And then, we're going to have to go somebody else that we really don't want to. Or do you put the adult in the room in there and say, the game's over, we're going to finish this thing. We're not going to give them, the life that we go into tomorrow. And it's, 20, we scored 25, something like that. It's 25 to 18, and all of a sudden we didn't feel like we won the game. It's like we're going to win. We're going to win the game. We're going to finish this thing. Put the adult in the room on the mound, and it's over with. And I think you have to do that for the kids. You have to do that for the feeling of the game. When you score 25 runs or whatever we did, you should feel like you won. And so Ben did that for us, and so that's a very valuable role. And so he's got, he'll have a day off, and then hopefully be able to bounce back on Sunday if we need him. And Ben's pitched a lot of college baseball innings and won a lot of games, and I'm sure he'll take a few ibuprofen and run a few laps and get that wing fired up again and ready to go.
When your offense has as many big innings as you guys had, how tough is that on a starter like Luke, and how do you feel like he handled it?
Yeah, it actually, you're right, that's a real thing, and especially for a guy that's so big, his back can get tight, your hips can get tight, and so you're excited that you're having those big innings, but you want to finish the inning, right, where we had a bunch of 2-out RBIs, a bunch of 2-out hits, and so you got, the bases loaded, there's 2 guys on, and you don't want to have this big 25-minute inning and score 1 run or score 2 runs. It's like put up a crooked number, put up a 3, 4, 5, 6 spot. And so once we did that, then it's like, okay, that's kind of the roll of the dice. But he did a good job managing it, and he attacked them. I know they hit a few homers and that stuff late, but that's what you want a guy to do. Like we're not going to walk our way into a 5-run inning. If you hit me, you hit me. But I'm going to go out here and I'm going to pour it in there, and we're going to play baseball. And that's what you need him to do. And he did that. And he kept the game moving along. So kudos to him for just going and attacking and making sure that we didn't allow those. You may score 2, but you're not going to score 5 like that. And kudos to him. He was really good. He was excellent. I told Scott before the game, I said, you're really going to like this guy a lot. And he'd been around, but he'd seen him on TV and hadn't seen him in person as much. And so I'm kind of curious to get his 2 cents, because I'd imagine he liked him a lot.
What's the message to the guys in the dugout in a game like this?
You got to keep going. You have to keep going. You have to keep going. Just every time you're on offense, your at bats, that's the most important at bat of the day. And I always tell our guys, it's a 1-run game, 1-run mentality. Get to first base, it's a 1-run game. Because, we got to that point on Wednesday where we were up by, 6 or 8, and then all of a sudden it's like pop up, pop up, pop up. And, we've got to just finish ball games. We haven't done that. We haven't finished. We haven't just ran away with it. And so you have to do that, because in these series, every single pitcher is so valuable, and sending the message, honestly, across the field that we're going to keep coming. It's a part of sport, right? It's a part of sport where an attitude and a consciousness and an awareness that someone's going to keep pushing and they don't stop. That's an important thing, especially this time of the year. We've played, I don't know, however many games we've played, 45, 50 games, where you're to the point now where you have hopefully a month or 6 weeks left, but it's like you have a month, you have 2 or 3 weeks left. That's the only thing you're guaranteed. Pour it out, give everything you've got. You've worked the whole season to get here. Don't leave it up for grabs now. And just baseball is such a fickle game. You just like they go and score those runs. You just don't know, and you have to keep going. So it's just that mentality: push, 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 push.
Last one.
Going back to Sinnard, what's the balance like when you've got a big lead and you can just rely on him to eat some of those innings, but you want to keep him fresh for the rest of the year?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, because it's the main topic of conversation in the last 48 hours is how do we manage him, because next week would be theoretically on a short week, and then the next week is depending upon what happens, probably a short week again. And so you have to eat as many innings as you can without burning your primary bullpen arms, but at the same time not overextending him, because he's going to be on back-to-back short weeks with very high leverage, high intense innings and pitches. And so we wanted to get him through the 6th. We got to get through the 6th, and then we were going to try to go 1-1-1, 7, 8, 9, and then it just obviously just didn't work that way. So we did the best that we could to manage it, but we had to get to the point where we have to finish the game. We have to finish the game, and we can't allow this thing to bleed over and feel like we didn't win. So that's when you go to Ben, and best laid plans often go awry, but we managed it. So yeah, we wanted to get him through the 6th. Once you get the lead, that's enough. And then line those guys up after that, so he's ready to go with a full clip here in the next 2 weeks.
Great. Thanks,
Awesome.
Coach.
Thanks, guys, so
Thanks,
much.
Coach.
Have a good night. Thank
You
you.
too. Pete. Okay. Good job, Pete.
Thanks, Bruce.
We'll bring it this way. Pete, come in.
Where am I going?
Greg, you want to this way? Yeah, you jump this way. Okay. Yeah.
Is it warm in here? Am I tripping, or is it warm?
I'm quite quaint. Is that the right use of that word? Quaint?